Hello everyone, Specter here, and welcome to Star Citizen. Today I'm going to analyze the Kraken Privateer. So, in this video, I'm going to divide it into 4 parts. First, we will talk about the basic information of the privateer. Second and third will be about the advantage and disadvantages of the privateer. And lastly, will be simply sharing my own thoughts about the ship. So, let's get to it. Alright, so let's talk about the basic information of the privateer. And this information would be just for now because many things would be subject to change as the Kraken Privateer currently is still a concept ship. So let's get to it first. The Privateer is a light carrier and of course is a multi-role ship as well that is manufactured by Drake Interplanetary. So when people talk about Drake ships, usually they will think about 3 things. First would be cheaper than the other brand. Secondly would be about piracy, which is bad. And thirdly would be lack of escape mechanisms. It means that extremely bad. But according to the design of the base Kraken, it means that Kraken without stores on board, that one, the privateer should have some escape pods on board as well, although no one knows that those pods will be working or not. But anyway, as long as you got escape pods, should be safer comparing to the other Drake ships. The privateer is a capital-sized ship, so it's about 270 meters long, 104 meters wide, and 64 meters tall. And all modules on board would be capital size except for the computers and radar. For the weaponries, you got 1 size 8 twin-mounted man turret, 4 size 6 twin-mounted man turrets, and 4 size 5 twin-mounted remote turrets. For the crew, you should have 10 of them in order to operate the ship and also the stores. But this is very unlikely. I will explain to you guys why. Later, not now. The cargo capacity would be 768 SCU, but when we talk about storages, it would be a little bit tricky on the ship because there would be 10 stores on board. 8 of them would be public stores, while 2 of them would be private stores. All the stores will, each of them, you will get 189 SCU of storage capacity. So when you do the math correctly, you should get around 2,658 SCU, if I counted correctly. For now, yeah, probably is correct. Well, so however, those stores, the storage of the stores cannot be mixed up together. So it means that they are independent from each other. You can't really mix up with the t-shirts and the ship modules together. Please don't do that, which you can't, obviously. The private stores on board, which is 2 of them, can be only visited. You can only visit those stores via invitations only. So it means that if you piss that owner off, technically those private stores would not be able for you to visit. And the private stores are not scannable from the outside of the ship. It means that the authority or the other people have no idea what you are selling in those stores. And the storage inside of those stores would be concealed as well. So, well, you can sell illegal things inside and no one knows about it. So, for the ship's design, you've got 6 landing platforms on board. 4 of them would be small pads for small ships, and 2 of them would be medium pads. So it means that for medium ships. So in total, you got 6 landing platforms. Of course, if you are skillful enough, in theory, you should be able to land a large size ship on board. But I don't know, just in theory, at least what I can see, you should be able to, but well, no one knows about the design of Star Citizen later on, so yeah. However, no matter what kind of ship land on the Kraken Privateer, the shield of the Kraken Privateer will not protect the ships on the platform. So it means that, well, if the ships on board, for some reasons, switch off their own shield and someone attack, and those ships will be blown up right away or damaged because the privateer's shield will not protect those ships on board. You got internal hangars as well, but those hangars, for now, would be only for small ships. So if you are talking about like trying to put a colorless black inside of it, that's not possible for now, probably. So the ships on the pad, in theory, should be able to rearm, refuel, and repair as long as the Kraken Privateer got such resources on board. And in the future, they probably, CIG probably would put a med bay on board, but that med bay, I mean, inside of that med bay, the medical bed would be around, probably would be tier 2, just like a Kraken or 890 jump. For the price, well, if it's war bond, it would be 1,700 like USD, US dollars. But now, as a standalone ship, when it's available, it's around $2,000. So let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage of the privateer. All right, so let's talk about the disadvantages of the Kraken Privateer first. Well, just because I don't want you guys to be too excited to try to spend $2,000 on the privateer right away after you heard about the advantages of the ship. So, yep. The first thing is very obvious is about the size of the privateer because the size of the privateer is too large. And bigger doesn't mean better in Star Citizen, and if you're too big or too heavy, it means that you will have a hard time to leave the surface of the planet or satellites. The worst scenario would be you need some extra assistance like hiring the Argo SRVs to pull your ship back to the orbit. So being bigger, it means that you will have a harder time to find places to repair or spawn your ship. When you talk about spawning your ship, if you flew the Aegis Reclaimer or Origin 890 Jump before, you probably would know how hard it is because, well, you can spawn them on the planet's surface and also in Grimhex only, not for the space stations. So you will have a hard time to find places to spawn your ship. And also in the future, if you want to repair your ship, it means that you need a sizable hangar as well, or maybe a dockyard. So at that time, it means that generally you need to find a well-developed or relatively well-developed system in order to do both of them, which is quite annoying because it may force you to leave your original location to get to a new location to do both of them. Yep. So you need to do some traveling during at that time, so it's not very ideal to do so. Well, just annoying, I should say. Even if you find your way to repair and refuel your ship, it means sometimes you need to take a long time. Well, this experience, let's try to like spend some fuel, like waste some fuel on your Hercules, then you probably will know what will happen. Sometimes when you after you landed, if you didn't refuel your Hercules for quite some time, only for hydrogen fuel, they try to refuel it to the top, okay? They may take you quite a bit of time to the point that the station try to impound your ship just because you stay on the platform for too long. And at that time, you're not done with refueling yet. So you can imagine as a capital sized ship, the privateer needed a lot of time to refuel and repair the ship. And being bigger, it means that you will be easily spotted by people as well on their radar. You can spot by the civilian liner, you can spot it by the security, you can spot it by everyone, including the pirates. So you will know what will happen to you if the pirates find your ship. And also, for the crew requirement, it will be a little bit larger because, or mean higher, because you need more crews to man the stations and your stores on board as well. So, yep, you need more crew members to man your ship, which is harder to operate your ship as well. And this one would be less likely for people to mention about it, is about the jump points. Well, in the future, probably, all right, CIG designed three types of jump points between the systems. And yes, jump point would be the only way for you to travel from systems to systems. There would be three sizes, small, medium, and large. And obviously, as a capital ship, the privateer can only jump through the large jump points in order to have a safe passage. You can take a risk, but also that kind of risk would be severely damage your ship as well. So yeah, you can try your very good, try your luck if you try to squeeze yourself inside of that small or medium jump points. But if you don't want to take the risk, fine, find the large jump points. But if you're going to travel from location A to location B, it may not be an easy task, as A and B may not have a large jump point to connect with each other. So it turns out you may need to do the detour quite a bit to travel like through a few systems in order to get to location B, which will waste you a lot of time, especially you want to get to location B right away. So it may take you hours to do so instead of like 1 or 2 hour. I don't know. Yeah, no one knows that how you travel through that wormhole, the jump point anyway. So, but you will take a longer time to travel from location A to B. That is quite obvious unless you got a large jump point connected with each other. All right, so the second thing is about the security of the ship. Well, yeah. So since you are a large ship, the privateer is a large ship. So it means that if the pirates pick your signal, it means that they might go to your location and try to harass you. Well, of course, a solo pirate will not do anything to your ship, as that is not called piracy, that's called stupid and also suicide. But if it's a pirate organization, it means that your ship will be endangered by your action. Not action, but just simply would be in danger. All right. So it turns out you might need some escort around your ship, and sometimes you might need to hire extra escort to fly along with your ship so that, well, you'll be safer. Well, because most of the time, probably you will travel like away from, um, I mean, some area that authority can reach their hands on right away. So, yep, you might need a lot of escorts around your ship so that the pirates, kind of cannot do anything to your ship. And once your ship is landed on the surface of a planet or satellites that is not in any kind of, in a different factions, or maybe there's no authorities over there, it means that you're not just need to deploy ships to secure the air dominance, and also you need to deploy ground troops to secure the ground entrances. Yes, because you definitely don't want someone to drive tanks to run your ship over. By land, of course. So ground security is also needed while air patrol is is required already. And the third thing is about the security on the ship as well, because, well, once people get on your ship and try to buy things, you definitely don't want people to do some gun blazing inside of your ship. So you need to deploy some security detail on board so that you can keep outsiders away from the private stores, maybe bridges or cargo bay or some other sensitive locations on your ship. And to prevent some players or NPCs to do gun blazing on your ship. Now, here comes a third thing about the disadvantage of the ship, of the privateer. It would be about the operation costs. Well, beside of you need to spend credits on buying the ships itself, well, if you need to deploy that many security or escorts around your ship, it means that you need to pay them as well. And if they are your friends, then you can pay less. But if they are not, if they are just some sort of outsiders who contracted by you, then it means that they might cost you some fortune. And if you need some assistance to get back to the orbit, it means that, well, those SRVs as well, those people who operate them, you need to pay them as well. And since your ship is larger, it means that you will burn more fuel and expensive to repair. No matter if arm refuel or repair, um, that would be quite a fortune. Let me give you an estimate. I try to empty 25% of hydrogen fuel capacity from my Origin 890 Jump by 4, and it cost me around over 10,000. I forgot the how much it would be. But when I estimate the whole thing, if I emptied 100%, it means that I emptied everything, every bit of hydrogen fuel on the ship. It would cost me around 10,000 credits to refuel it. So now you can imagine, as a bigger, much more larger ship, like a privateer, how much you need to spend on just refueling your hydrogen fuel, not including rearm repair. Yep, so it would be quite a fortune for you to spend on. And also, you don't, you need to include those rearm refuel and repair costs of your escorts as well as those ships. Well, if those ships belongs to you, it means that you need to maintain them as well. So it will add up extra expenses on that. And obviously, the insurance of the ship would be higher because it's capital ships anyway. So in the future, if you need to spend your in-game credits on and like extending your insurance of your ship, then well, it would cost you quite a fortune though. And yep. So the second last of the disadvantage of the privateer would be, well, I think it would be more often for your ship to be stopped by authorities. Well, here comes two scenarios. I know that NPCs are not clever enough just because you are a Drake ship, they will stop you from traveling. They won't pick any kind of thing just on purpose just because of your Drake ships. But instead, it will be about the players. Well, it's kind of hard to tell that whether players will side with the authority and being ordered to patrol a specific area in the future. If your ship was being like picked up by a player, which being contract to patrol that area, that players probably want to scan your ship, as everyone knows that the privateer got private stores. So it means that your ship is not going to be scannable. For some part of your ship it cannot be scanned as well. Yeah. So at that time, players might want to scan your ship and also want to board your ship as well. Well, if it is possible. Well, no matter how you do things, if your ship got some illegal goods on board, no matter what it will have, what did you choose, you would piss off the authorities or factions over that area because, well, if you allow the players who aboard your ship to do the searching, well, they obviously will find out the private store got some illegal things on board or contraband on board. And if you choose to run away, well, also piss off the authorities around that area. So it's not a good thing for your business over that area if you want to, if you piss off the local factions over there. And even if you're a very, very good citizen who would not put illegal things or contraband on your ship. Still, like letting players or NPCs on board your ship to do the searching will take you some time, and that time will be very precious for you as well. Your ship is for trading and also doing business after all, so it means that it will be spending your time to earn credits. That is not very ideal. Yep. But here comes a second scenario because the first one is quite complicated. So I think the second scenario would be much more reasonable, I would say. All right, so if the players who side with the faction over there, the local authorities to scan your ship based on, I mean, the contract, well, obviously they cannot scan anything unless you are bold enough to put contraband and also the illegal goods on board, like in your cargo bay or the public stores storages. If not, well, obviously the players or NPCs cannot scan anything, right? And they will leave. You think that everything is ended. That's not true because according to CIG in 2019, that NPCs in the game in the future would be kind of, all right, doing what the human players would do in the first and just increase the scale of it, all right? So that's to make the first like more, active kind of. If a human player going to scan your ship, it means that it would also increase the chance for the NPCs to stop you and like scan your ship as well. And every time you do the scanning, it would take you time. And yep, if someone, your visitor, your customer landed a ship on your landed their ship on your privateer and bought some illegal goods on their ship. And at that moment, if NPC or human players do the searching or do the scanning, well, you might still be able to get away, but the ship on your privateer would not. So it turns out, well, depends on that player or NPC trying to, what kind of thing they try to do. If they try to fight off the authorities, it means that uh, a mini, I mean, a kind of dogfight will be occurred right next to your ship or even on board of your ship. So it's not a very ideal thing. And if those ships belong to an organization which is very close to you, it turns out might lead you to some sort of small mini war around your ship as well, which is even worse. So this kind of activity will endanger your ship and the precious cargo on board of your ship. So this is also bad. Lastly, well, it's kind of straightforward though. It's too expensive to purchase it. Yes. So if you want to do the like flying a ship with markets on it, well, you can choose a Banu Merchantment because it's far cheaper comparing to the Kraken Privateer. Unless you really enjoy those two stores, which is a private stores. If not, I do think that the Banu Merchantment would be better choice as is like around for now is around 500 less than $600, while this Kraken Privateer it cost you at least $2,000, and it may subject to change. It may increase the price as well as they may change something. So it is too expensive to purchase it with real money. So this is the straightforward downside of the Kraken Privateer. All right, so let's move on to the advantages of the ship. All right, so let's talk about the advantages of the privateer. So the first thing is very obvious, that is, the privateer can move around. Of course, if you talk about like purchasing 10 stores on planet in the cities or in some space stations, you can do something very similar to what you are doing on a privateer in a cheaper way as well, because you don't need to pay too much for security. You don't need to pay too much for maintaining your ship, or refueling your ship, rearming your ship, or other stuff. Yep, as those cities or in the space stations, probably you got the NPC securities from the NPC faction itself to protect it. All right, so basically it would be relatively safer comparing to like staying on a Kraken in a remote area. But that would not be the case if some faction, yeah, some other NPC faction decided to kind of doing something bad in your location. Because in the future, in Star Citizen, the NPC factions, for example, the Vandals, the UEE usually, all right, they have some conflicts against each other. So if those factions are kind of having conflicts and it was happening some sort of like close to your location, it turns out, well, no matter talk about like human players or NPCs, they might not want to get there, as piracy would be increased. Yep, due to a lot of security, the local security forces have no time to deal with pirates, but instead they need to face something like the Vandal Kingship, like the whole full-scale invasion, something like that. So it means that if you own the stores over those system, it turns out you will be less profitable at that point. But owning a privateer, however, it turns out you will have an option to go to another place. May not be as profitable as the current location, but at least it would be safer as well. At least you won't see a lot of like the blades and other like alien ships attacking your Kraken, right? So you can have some options to jump to another location so that you can save your precious cargo on board. So that would be one of the benefits of having a privateer. Second thing is, well, you can sell some illegal or contraband on some planets. Well, one of the most obvious or most currently you can say it easily to say is Hurston. Yes, if you like set a spawn point in Hurston in Lorville, you can buy armor and stuff, but it's rarely for you to buy guns. Well, of course you can buy a pistol, but not like a rifle or even a submachine guns like that. All right, or light machine guns, something like contain a lot of firepower. As probably because the Hurston Dynamics doesn't want their workers to do some uprising. So, well, yep. So because um, they always giving a lot of pressure to their workers. So, yep, probably because of that, the Herson Dynamics do not have. I mean, it kind of like doesn't allow people to sell guns over there. All right, at least it seems like that way. All right, so just imagine that you own a Kraken Privateer, you just land on Hurston then, and you can open the stores that have guns, like private stores. You put a lot of guns inside. Then I think that many NPCs or players want to go to your ship and buy it directly instead of flying all the way to maybe the closest, like HRL1, to buy guns. That would be one of the benefits of having a privateer. That would be. All right, so since a privateer is a big ship, and of course you can put not only attack crafts, but instead you can put a lot of different ships on board. And it turns out you can do many things on the ship. I mean, with your ship. So if you don't want to like doing some, I mean, if you don't have some like aggressive activity, you do not want to do that, or maybe you are in an organization, you got a lot of people surrounding you, escorting your fleet already, then it turns out you can put other ships on board. Like for example, if you like trading, then how about you put a lot of hull A or hull B series of ships on board so that you can transport your goods all around the places, just like doing deliveries. Or maybe you can just store some prospectors, however, something like that. Okay, so maybe they cannot really to like mine quantanium, which is very bad if it explodes inside of your Kraken Privateer. But instead, they may mine some maybe laranite or some raw ore and like just put it on your ship. Then, well, technically, it turns out you can make your ship being more useful comparing to just simply a moving market. All right, so another benefit of the privateer itself would be, well, it would be more efficient when it comes to piracy. Yes, because since the privateer itself is a light carrier, so it means that you can launch quite a sizable force like of attack crafts to attack convoys. Well, if it's too heavily armed convoy, then well, of course, obviously you cannot do anything to it. But well, we're talking about like some individual ships that roaming around in the area that is very close to you. Well, those ships probably can be one of your victims of being sunk or maybe being looted by your fleet. And yep, since the privateer itself got some, I mean, quite a sizable like cargo capacity, so it means that doing piracy would be an option as well. I know that people may start to argue, why don't you choose a Kraken, the base Kraken, instead of a privateer? Because the base Kraken got 3,792 SCU of cargo space comparing to the privateer, which is 768. Even if you combine all the storages, it would be about 2,658 SCU, I believe. Yeah, of cargo space capacity. And here comes some answers. Well, I need to point out a few flaws when you ask this question. Maybe not flaws, but it's a kind of misunderstanding, I believe. Yeah, I should say. All right. So basically, people may misunderstand that every time you do piracy must be like sinking a lot of ships. No, you watch too much movies. A the I mean, if you're performing a good piracy, technically you will let those victims alive because you just want those stuff hanging around, like moving around. But you don't want to really like sink every kind of ships. If not, everyone want to go after you, right? So basically, piracy. For piracy, you just simply take what you wanted. All right. So this is one thing. Second thing is not everything on the ship, on your prey, on your targeted ship would be worthy for you to loot. So just example, if you go outside and launch a squadron of attack crafts to kind of hijacking maybe a whole E series of ships, all right, a whole E series just hanging around there and then it's dead in the water right now. Now, what you're going to do is to kind of get um, those valuable stuff on board, right? And get back to your ship. But doesn't mean that for those over 10,000 of SCU of cargo, every single SCU would be worthy for you to take. Some of them may be some ores, which is like refined quantanium, maybe talk about like titanium, not titanium, sorry, what I mean is like laranite, these kind of valuable stuff. All right. And also on board, you might have some like ore or stuff that is not valuable, like for example, ammo, all right, or t-shirts. How about that? Or maybe, as I said before, like titanium, all right. These kind of stuff you might not want it. So it turns out you might just take like less than half of those stuff, or maybe far less than those stuff on board of on your ship. So basically, I do think that the privateer would be enough for that job, as you might not be able to fill up the whole cargo capacity of a Kraken if you're just looting a ship, because most of those stuff will not be worthy for you to uh, take it. All right. So another misunderstanding is, well, you are not just looting those stuff, but instead you need to sell them in order to be profitable. So it comes to something called how effective you can sell those stuff. So imagine a scenario, okay, so this scenario would be, imagine you can have full load of stuff, to looted stuff on board of your ship. So for example, you got 3,792 SCU of loot on board of your Kraken, comparing to maybe in total like 2,658 SCU. Or, I mean, if you like store every inch of your like cargo bay from your, of your privateer, including those storages, then you got 2,600 something SCU in total. All right. So both of them got full load of cargo. All right. And they try to sell them in order to be profitable. Right. So the scenario will be just in a very good condition. All right. So you may have like item A, B, and C, and you need to go to location A, B, and C to sell them off. So for the Kraken, you need to go to location A to sell location A stuff, while location B to sell the location like the B stuff, and location C to sell the C stuff, right? And it would take you quite a long time, as well. You need to go to 3 different places to sell them. But how about the privateer? Well, that would be a little bit easier, because first of all, you got less cargo to sell. Second, even if you are in location A, to sell the A stuff over there, but doesn't mean that the NPCs or human players and that location don't need the B stuff and C stuff. So they may still go to your ship and try to buy some stuff on board. So here comes it would be easier for you to distribute your loot to other people. And when you go to location B, you might have an easier time to sell your stuff, because, well, some people might have already like bought it in location A. So from location A, so technically, yeah, it would be easier for you to like sell all of your stuff, and it turns out it would be like easier for you or faster for you to earn credits like through this kind of method. And what I was saying was something that is like in a best scenario, because sometimes you might not be able to sell every single thing in location A. So you may need to wait for a few days for location A to absorb the cargo that is on board of your ship, of your Kraken, all right, or of on your privateer. So yeah, it turns out even if you have a bigger cargo capacity, doesn't mean that it's easier for you to sell your loot away. And also, if you talk about like selling things, you will, I mean, if you are flying a Kraken, the base Kraken, comparing to the privateer, you will raise a lot of attention, because, well, what are you going to sell anyway? So if there's no space station, there's no city in that location, all you want to get rid of those loot by selling them is to ask the local like players or NPCs to kind of get on your ship to buy those stuff, right? So what are you going to ask? Like, oh, like just come on my ship. I got some very cheap stuff to sell. Then people might question why you have those stuff on board anyway. But in the privateer, however, since you're a shop, so you're the moving market, people will go to your ship to buy things originally. Like no matter it's loot or not, they would just go to your ship to buy stuff at the beginning. Yeah. So they will raise a less question, and it turns out you can keep your ship in low profile. Like no one will question you where you get it as long as you are selling them. That would be fine. Okay. So that is a benefit for the Kraken Privateer when it comes to piracy. Okay. So that would be like one more, no, actually two more benefits of having a privateer or for the privateer itself, all right? Not having it, but of the privateer. Well, if you're a privateer owner, I do think that in the future in Star Citizen, many organizations with capital ships will prefer to buy things from you. Here comes the reason why. So just imagine some organizations got maybe Javelin, all right? These kind of capital-sized ship, they cannot land on planets. They cannot land on the surface of a planet or a satellite. All they can do is to hang around in the orbit and then sending craft on the surface to buy stuff and to resupply. And even if they are like lucky enough to find some sizable dockyard to do the maintenance, well, technically, I don't think that that would be on the surface, but instead it would be in space, or maybe just like in Crusader itself, like hanging around in the city I mean, as that city was floating in the air. All right. So if every single time you need to travel back to, travel down there, sending craft to travel down to the surface and then travel back to the orbit, it would take a lot of time, which you might not want to, or they may not want to. So if you are a privateer owner, it means that, well, they just simply transport goods from your platform to their ship. So it would be easier, or even if they can do the docking and just go to your ship, that would be far easier for them to like buying goods and do the resupply. So, yep, for me, the privateer would be quite a very good option for the organizations who got moving around with a capital-sized ships in the future. All right, so that would be one more benefits of having, I mean, of the privateer itself, not having it, but of the privateer itself. It would be it is manufactured by human. Yes, many people may not talk about it. Yes, in the future, probably, I don't know, but for me, it is some sort of reasonable. It is a human craft, right? And in the future, in Star Citizen, you can choose different kind of species. And if you're lucky enough to choose human as your species of your character, good for you, because it will be an easier time for you to like buy human ships around the verse in like UEE territory. All right, and Kraken is in UEE territory. I mean, yeah, the Drake interplanetary. All right, so it belongs to UEE territory, um, like stuff. So it will be easier for you to buy their ships. Yeah, because since the Kraken or Kraken Privateer itself is a capital-sized ship, it is quite hard to get your hands on, even though if you have credits on, in your pocket, but doesn't mean that like it's easier for you to buy it. But if you're a human, since you guys are the same species, right? So, yep, it will be easier for you to get your hands on something like capital size. All right. So, yep, that is what I can think of, like the advantages of the privateer. And now let's talk about my thoughts of the ship. All right, so let me talk about my thoughts of the Kraken Privateer. So if you are talking about whether I would get it or not, or I would suggest you to get it or not, I would say no. Well, because it is very expensive for a concept ship, you need to spend 2,000 US dollars to buy it. And that ship is like nowhere near flyable currently. So, well, it's not practical to do that. And if you're looking at the other flying market, the Banu Merchantman, well, that ship, well, from 2013 until now, that ship getting bigger while we getting older. So it's quite hard for us not to imagine that in the future, the Kraken Privateer will getting bigger as well. And I said it already, but bigger doesn't mean better in Star Citizen. And if it turns out the ship is not, I mean, if the ship is turning to some point that you might not want it anymore, if you purchase it for $2,000 right now, at that time, you might not be able to do the refund. So that is one of the reasons why I won't suggest people to buy this ship with real cash. The second thing is, well, it's kind of hard for me not to believe that CIG would not do, I mean, would not design any kind of flying markets in the future. Because if you're looking at the Carrack, you will know that, well, they try to pump up 3 more expedition ships. One already out, which is Myst Odyssey, and the other 2 maybe in the future. But still, well, people were angry because the way that CIG was advertising about the Odyssey, which makes the Odyssey is like a little bit better compared to the Carrack, which at that time they were saying that the Carrack was good. I mean, it was the most powerful or most, I mean, the best expedition ship at that time. All right, so it's quite hard for me not to believe that CIG might in the future design another branch of flying markets, so that, well, if that's the case, it turns out one day if you found that CIG designing a ship, a flying market that it is more suitable for you, then at that time you still need to stick with that Kraken Privateer as you spent $2,000 already. So the only option for you is just not to buy a new ship, or maybe you just simply like spend another chunk of money to buy a new ship, a new flying market. So it would be a little bit wasteful if you don't, I mean, if you don't want to fly that Kraken Privateer at that time after you're spending $2,000, which is you cannot refund it. All right. So that is also, yeah, I will not suggest people to rush their way to buy the ship before you fully understand of the ship, or maybe you've seen or you flown about the ship, you flew about the I mean, you flew the ship. So before that, I won't suggest people to use real cash to buy it. And also, like, it would be hard for you to operate it at the beginning of, I mean, after the game officially launched, because as I said, this is a capital sized ship. So it turns out you need quite a fortune to operate it. And I'm not even talking about make it profitable, because between that, you might need to suffer losses due to business error or something like that. So it means that you may need to spend not days, not weeks, but maybe months or even years in order to make this ship operational. At that time, I mean, with that time, I do think that you can try to decide whether you should buy this ship with in-game credits instead. Because even if you use real cash to buy this ship, but still, you need to kind of, all right, grind your way there so that to make the ship become something that is profitable to you. All right. And also, one more, which is the kind of last one that I would not suggest people to buy it is, well, because this ship, it is about it can involve a lot of management instead of like really about playing. Because if you're a person that you really want to do gun blazing, do missions, fine. But if you own the Kraken Privateer, then it might not be the case, as a lot of things you need to some micro management, as the NPCs cannot handle those stuff by themselves. So it turns out every single time you log in to the game, you need to spend a lot of time to manage everything on board of your ship, and then you can go out and do some stuff. Well, if you have a lot of time, of course you can do it, but if you don't have it, then you may not be in, you might not enjoy about it. So, well, if you really want to spend that like large amount of money just buying this kind of concept ship, I will suggest you to kind of like looking for something that, I mean, try to ask yourself a question that what kind of thing you want to aim for in the game. If you really like management, fine, you can get it. But if you don't like it, you need to think about it before you get this ship with real cash. All right. So, well, for me, I will not. I don't think that I will get a Kraken Privateer after all, even with like in-game credits, as well. I'm not a person that really like too much management thing happen in the game. So maybe I would go for some lighter crafts, maybe the Banu Merchantment, if I really want to do some like business by like flying my market to other places. All right. So I will choose some smaller ships to do so instead of this kind of big capital size Kraken Privateer, the flying market to like do the game, do the playing. All right. And as I suggest, if you want it, I would suggest you to buy it with in-game credits, as you still need time to grind it, right? And also during that process, you might be able to kind of encounter some players who already got the Kraken Privateer. At that time, you can simply like to see whether they are going to hire you as one part of their crew. Maybe you can do some missions for them so that, well, technically you can walk around the ship so that you will have a better understanding before you buy your ship. All right, that's what my suggestion is. A best scenario that's if after you like take a look at the ship first, and then you can buy whatever you want, even though yeah it's expensive. If this is your ship, then I don't really think that you will stop buying it due to you just like got expensive, more expensive compared to nowadays. All right. All right then. So that is it for today's video about the Kraken Privateer. And if you have any kind of new ideas that I didn't mention about how to use a Kraken Privateer, or maybe I got some, maybe I got some information I got it wrong, then feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you are like a Kraken Privateer owner, then well, you can say that how you use the Kraken Privateer as well. All right. So, yep, that's it. And I will see you guys next time then. Bye bye.